Harry and Tom Bower unveil Meghan's secrets as custody fight erupts. That wasn't just a headline, it was a detonation. The kind that rattles chandeliers inside Buckingham Palace and cracks the marble floors of Montecito mansions at exactly 10:01 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, when the first whispers turned into a roar and the world realized this wasn't another recycled tabloid squabble. This was Prince Harry stepping out from behind the curtain and lighting the match himself. The morning it broke, insiders swore you could feel the temperature shift in both California sunshine and London frost because the unthinkable had happened. The man who once torched his own bloodline in televised confessions was now turning the spotlight inward, and not gently. When investigative biographer Tom Bower went live and confirmed he had received explosive insider material straight from the heart of the Sussex universe, jaws didn't just drop, they dislocated. He didn't need to say Harry's name at first. He didn't have to. The clues were loud, precise, intimate. These weren't scraps pulled from public filings. These were encrypted drives, deleted voice notes, contracts the public was never meant to see. And within hours, the internet pieced it together like a crime board covered in red string. The source was Prince Harry himself. Behind the manicured hedges of Montecito's $14 million estate, the mood was reportedly anything but serene. The holidays had passed with curated smiles and filtered family frames, but fractures were already spidering beneath the surface. Meghan, ever the strategist, allegedly believed Harry was emotionally anchored to her, orbiting her narrative like a loyal satellite. She had once reassured confidants that he couldn't survive without her, that his identity outside their alliance was too fragile to stand alone. But what she didn't see, which she never imagined, was Harry quietly building a digital vault of truth. Financial logs, archived emails, unedited contracts, even voice memos that captured arguments sharp enough to cut glass. In one alleged recording, Meghan's voice slices through the silence, "You're not a real prince anymore. You're just a brand." That single sentence, passed to Bower, carried the weight of years of resentment compressed into one brutal truth. The real rupture, insiders claim, came in late December when Harry discovered legal maneuvers underway to remove his oversight from a joint trust tied to their children. It wasn't just financial, it was existential. According to whispers threading through palace corridors, that was the moment something in him snapped, not explosively, but decisively. He reportedly sent a private message to Bower near the end of 2025, framing the documents as truth Meghan would never release herself. "I want my children to have a future built on truth, not marketing," he allegedly wrote. And with that, the countdown began. When Bower first hinted publicly on platforms like BBC that a high-ranking insider had delivered unprecedented material, speculation spiraled. Fingers pointed to Thomas Markle, then Samantha, then disgruntled staff. Meanwhile, Meghan's legal machine whirred into overdrive. NDAs were reviewed. Former assistants received sudden reminders of confidentiality. Crisis PR firms in Beverly Hills and Dubai were contacted in back-to-back calls. Social feeds were flooded with nostalgic charity clips, the banana messages, the tearful speeches, the humanitarian glow. It was a familiar playbook: soften the optics, redirect the narrative. But this time, the leak was too personal, too precise. What made it devastating wasn't just the content, it was the source. Meghan never suspected Harry. Multiple insiders insist she genuinely believed he was still tethered, still dependent, still unable to defy her publicly. She had curated not just her image, but his. Former collaborators from Netflix allegedly described how she would refine his talking points, adjust phrasing, remove stray doubts before interviews aired. Emails released to Bower reportedly showed track changes in shared documents, with lines inserted praising her resilience and deletions scrubbing references to pre-wedding uncertainties. Control the narrative. Phase 2. That phrase, scribbled in margins of internal memos, now reads less like strategy and more like prophecy unraveling. Inside royal walls, the response was measured but strategic. Princess Anne reportedly drafted a quiet reintegration blueprint for Harry. Conditional, firm, uncompromising. No half measures, no shadow partnerships. If he returned, it would be as a father first, not a brand extension. By mid-January, private meetings were said to have taken place under discreet security. The irony was seismic. The same man who once declared independence from the institution was now seeking structured distance from the very narrative he helped create. Social media, of course, erupted like gasoline meeting flame. Viral threads dissected past interviews alongside newly revealed documents. Old clips resurfaced with fresh scrutiny. A single TikTok compilation comparing Meghan's early blog persona with alleged PR pitch decks amassed millions of views in days. Even die-hard fans hesitated. The hashtag questioning her curated image trended globally. Meanwhile, Harry remained publicly silent, a silence louder than any televised confessional. Then came the whispers of custody. Reintegration discussions reportedly included guardianship reviews and structured time between the UK and California, not as punishment, as protection. Palace insiders murmured about trauma-informed education plans and shielding the children from media crossfire. And hovering over everything was the unspoken question: had this ever been a love story, or had it always been a merger? Back in California, Meghan's crisis team reportedly cycled through theories about the traitor. Was it an old college roommate, a suit stylist, a palace aide? Lawyers allegedly examined phone logs, revisited unsigned NDAs, scrutinized past grievances, but the one name she never entertained was the one already trending worldwide. The betrayal wasn't from a estranged family. It was from the partner she believed would never walk away. As February 15th dawned and confirmation solidified, the shockwave was total. Harry had not only cooperated, he had volunteered, willingly, methodically, and according to those close to him, not for revenge, but for release. He had grown tired of being shield and scapegoat simultaneously, tired of watching financial refinancings proceed without his knowledge, tired of curated memories replacing lived ones. "I lost myself trying to protect her," he reportedly confessed privately. "Now I want to protect my name and my children." When the confirmation hit that it was truly Harry who fed the files, the atmosphere shifted from scandal to siege. This wasn't rumor anymore. It wasn't palace gossip echoing through corridors. It was a custody storm forming in real time, and at the center of it stood Meghan Markle, blindsided not by tabloids, not by estranged relatives, but by the man she once described as emotionally tethered to her orbit. The shock inside her circle was reportedly volcanic. Staffers who had spent years managing perception suddenly found themselves managing panic. Emergency meetings stacked on emergency meetings. Legal teams in Los Angeles moved from defensive strategy to containment protocol, because this wasn't just reputational damage anymore, this was structural collapse. Within 48 hours of the leak's confirmation, sponsors began asking questions they had previously swallowed. Quiet investors from the Gulf reportedly paused negotiations. A highly publicized summit appearance was postponed indefinitely. 2 charitable partners requested internal reviews, and hovering over everything were the newly whispered words: financial audit. Archwell, once marketed as a beacon of compassionate transparency, now found itself under scrutiny. Forensic accountants allegedly began combing through allocations. Reports circulated of millions miscategorized, shell transfers tied to overseas entities, and documentation gaps that could not be easily explained away. Meghan's team insisted discretion and vision guided every move, but discretion in the age of viral receipts read suspiciously like concealment. Meanwhile, Harry was said to be back on British soil under the quiet watch of Princess Anne. No triumphant balcony appearances, no speeches, just private rooms, heavy doors, and serious conversations. Reintegration discussions weren't about restoring titles, they were about restoring guardianship stability. Palace insiders described a revised protocol focused not on pageantry, but parenting, structured transitions between Surrey and California, education oversight, media shielding. One reported line from a closed-door meeting echoed through insiders: they need peace, not performance. The implication was clear. The children were no longer props in a brand narrative. They were the priority. Back in Montecito, Meghan's silence became deafening. No fiery rebuttal, no exclusive sit-down, just carefully worded statements about peace, empathy, and legacy work. But the public read between the lines. The refusal to directly refute the documents, the contracts, the voice notes, the annotated PR guidelines felt less like dignity and more like calculation. Online communities turned into investigative forums overnight. Old Oprah interview clips were dissected frame by frame. Blog entries from the TIG were cross-referenced with alleged internal drafts. The phrase "control the narrative phase 2" became shorthand for manipulation, and the once loyal fan account that had defended her through every storm announced its closure with a single haunting sentence: "We believed in the story." The cruelty of it all lay in the irony. Meghan had built her empire on the language of authenticity, raw vulnerability, breaking cycles, speaking truth to power. But now the truth was being spoken about her, and it was coming from the one voice that once amplified hers. Prince Harry did not grant a tearful televised interview. He did not posture. He walked quietly into a private recording studio in Berkshire and confirmed what insiders already knew. He had cooperated fully, voluntarily. "Truth matters more than narrative," he reportedly said. Not revenge, not retaliation. Obligation. To his children, to himself. The custody dimension intensified everything. Lawyers on both sides began preparing for potential jurisdictional battles spanning the UK and California. Guardianship reviews were whispered about in legal corridors. Financial transparency clauses resurfaced. And beneath the legal chessboard was the emotional earthquake. Two parents who once branded themselves as a united front now positioned on opposite sides of a truth divide. Meghan's allies floated theories of coercion, institutional pressure, even emotional instability. But those arguments struggled to hold weight against the documented trail Harry had already provided to Tom Bower. The public sentiment turned statistical. Polls in the UK reportedly showed overwhelming skepticism toward Meghan's narrative. In the United States, a surprising majority framed Harry's move as moral obligation rather than spite. Social feeds filled with side-by-side timelines mapping inconsistencies. A viral montage titled "The Duchess of Discrepancy" exploded across platforms, reaching millions in days. The collapse wasn't instantaneous, it was layered, cumulative, relentless. Each archived quote became a shard, each resurfaced email another crack in the mirror. And through it all, Meghan reportedly remained convinced, at least initially, that Harry would circle back. That emotional gravity would pull him home. A leaked 2025 voice memo allegedly captured her confidence: he always comes back. But this time, he didn't. Instead, he signed revised integration papers on February 14th, Valentine's Day, not as a romantic gesture, but as a formal step towards separation stability. The symbolism was brutal. Love Day turned legal day. Inside Clarence's house that evening, sources describe a quiet scene. A fireplace, minimal staff, Harry seated across from Princess Anne, not as a rebellious exile, but as a father recalibrating his identity. No Netflix cameras, no podcast microphones, just institutional realism. The agreement reportedly included a 6-month evaluation period, ceremonial support roles only, and strict prohibition of future memoir-style disclosures. The message was subtle but unmistakable: return with humility, not headlines. Meanwhile, Meghan's legal team braced for subpoenas tied to Archwell communications dating back years. Former assistants agreed to speak anonymously. Hollywood allies adopted strategic distance. Invitations slowed. Meetings were rescheduled. The word radioactive surfaced in industry whispers, not because she lacked charisma, but because unpredictability had replaced control, and control had always been her currency. What makes this saga seismic isn't merely betrayal, it's exposure. Exposure of how modern royalty intersects with branding, how love stories morph into business models, how curated vulnerability can become armor until someone from inside removes it. Harry's decision didn't just threaten Meghan's reputation, it challenged the architecture of influence they built together. The custody fight, whether it escalates publicly or resolves quietly, is no longer just about legal guardianship. It's about narrative guardianship. Who shapes the children's understanding of their past? Who defines what was authentic and what was engineered? Those are questions no PR firm can spin and no ENDA can silence. And perhaps the most haunting image of all is this: Meghan inside her villa, phones buzzing, advisors scrambling, still tracing the outline of betrayal outward, never inward, while across the Atlantic, the man she once described as unable to stand alone sits steadily, no longer shield, no longer brand extension, but an individual reclaiming authorship of his own story. The headline that detonated that February morning was not exaggeration. It was transformation. Harry and Tom Bower unveil Meghan's secrets as custody fight erupts. Wasn't just a scandal splash, it was the sound of a myth fracturing from within, and the custody storm is only beginning.